Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Yesterday, during the 6-Minute Daily, I was talking about the breaking story at the time that Russell T. Davies and Bad Wolf have both exited the BBC program known as Doctor Who. And that, to anybody who's been paying attention for the last 5-6 years, that's welcome news, especially since this thing completely tanked once they partnered up with Disney Minus, and it kind of led to the worst 2 seasons of Doctor Who that have ever existed. I'm going to say that not only was Ncuti Gatwa's character not popular, or his presentation as the Doctor wasn't popular, I think it gave us Billy Piper going into what was going to be the Christmas special. And guess what? That's been canceled too. So let's jump on a story we were talking about months ago. But before we get started, just a quick reminder, I am trying to get to 50K. With that being said, please double check you're still subscribed to the channel. Click on the subscribe button if you're not, click on the bell icon, and turn on all notifications. Double check all notifications are on because that way you don't miss anything. Plus, if you could hit the thumbs up button right now, that'd be great, giving us 3 wins. And the other way you can win is to watch this video all the way through, give me a comment at the end, and then watch another one of my videos. Or maybe you missed yesterday's live 6-Minute Daily. You can also put hashtag replay gang on that as a comment if you want to as well. But Russell T. Davies is gone, and so is the Christmas special. And so is Bad Wolf. And so are all the bad ideas that came along with changing the narrative design of the Doctor into the wokest program on BBC. And, well, that's got a lot of competition because everything over there is woke. But these people are gone post Jodie Whittaker, the first female Doctor, which we really didn't need. And then a complete retelling of the beginning of the Doctor's story of a tortured little girl. Again, making the first Doctor female, and many other changes narratively that kind of destroyed the mythology of this long-running program. Regardless, the BBC announced on Wednesday that Davies and the production company Bad Wolf are out. They're gone. Christmas specials toast. It doesn't matter how much work they've done on it. And the show is being put on, well, hiatus. They're putting a competitive tender out, meaning the future of the franchise is now up for grabs. If they gave it to me, I think I would return it to its roots and it would be rather successful. But maybe the BBC wouldn't want it. It would air somewhere else that maybe enjoys good sci-fi. Now, the news confirms what was reported back in May. Cosmic Book News actually reported this story when rumors claimed that the Christmas special was in trouble, and the BBC reportedly struggled to find a new actor willing to take the role. Why? Why did they struggle so mightily? What happened? Was it because they completely obliterated the Doctor in its previous 2 iterations? Do you think it's because they destroyed even Tennant's performance at some point in time? This thing is retroactively bad. It destroys the past, which is the whole point anyway. And look, rumors claim that this was, going to be dead long ago, especially after Disney pulled out their funding. Does that surprise anybody? I don't think so. I think we all saw the writing on the wall, even if the BBC did not want to admit that, well, it had already been written, or preordained in this case. Now, they canceled the Doctor Who Christmas special, and in the statement, the decision to scrap the special was not taken lightly. It acknowledged it would be disappointing for fans, but argued that rather than bridge the gap with a one-off, the broadcaster is choosing to invest in the long-term future of the show by giving, well, somebody else an opportunity to build it back up. So when the TARDIS lands once more, it does so in all its glory. Why do they care now? Well, because they lost a storytelling instrument that was somewhat popular. And of course, we've covered the ratings here on the channel before, and it was nothing but diminishing from the very point in time when Jodie walked in the door to the very point in time where Ncuti Gatwa exited the building. All I have to tell you is that this is maybe a proper ending for Who, and maybe we should put it on the shelf for 10 years. It's a notable reversal. Just last year, BBC promised fans a spectacular Christmas special, which we all didn't think was going to come to fruition. We were correct. And that the Disney confirmed that Disney Plus was exiting the partnership with the BBC after Ncuti Gatwa era failed to break through? Well, of course, they changed the Doctor narratively. Every time you do this, you're doing so with a purpose. It's either to destroy or significantly harm or change a property that you don't like the audience of. Not that they don't give you an enormous amount of money, which they do, but that audience isn't the right audience. Well, the right audience doesn't exist. The modern audience is a fantasy. And I think a lot of these production companies, a lot of these studios, a lot of these entities are failing to come to grips with that and continuing to see woke in films and television and watch those shows and programs, films, whatever you want to call them, go down in a heap of flames is not a surprise to us and yet still surprising to them. Very strange indeed. But it's being put out to tender. So with Bad Wolf gone, they're going to make sure that this thing exists in the future in line with the BBC's charter requirements. What does that mean? Well, it still has to be woke because the charter requirements are, well, pretty strict. Doctor Who didn't take a lot of budgeting, early in its existence. In fact, as it returned with Russell T Davies originally, who built the show back up from the ground up, in his first turn back as a showrunner, he did a good job. It was the second turn as a showrunner where he destroyed it. Now, Doctor Who remains an important part of the BBC, and this tender underpins the BBC's continued commitment to Doctor Who, ensuring audiences will enjoy the show for years to come. In other words, a full reboot of the show gets made is on the table. New producers, new creative direction, possibly a clean break from everything that came before. Maybe that's the good thing. And, this is something that Russell T Davies posted. Regardless, who cares? He's gone. Goodbye. But as he says goodbye, he's trying to put a positive spin on the show being up for grabs, the show that he destroyed. And you know what? I don't think there's anything positive there. The show has been irreparably harmed, in my opinion, but maybe a creative could get there and do something that might be worthwhile. So as part of his statement, he says, and so goodbye from the Doctor Who, but hello to the big new future for the show. The BBC announces putting the show out to tender. As a result, there won't be a Christmas special. We only cooked that up to guarantee a future when no one knew what would happen because they had just completely destroyed the thing that came before. For the record, there was no script. I never wrote it, and no actor was ever approached to play the next Doctor. You may disagree. Fine, sit in that chair and wait to be proved right. You'll wait a long time. Now, I'm as excited as anyone to see what comes next. Will they keep the same tune? Will they lose the blue box? It's all up for grabs at this point, and I think maybe, just maybe, that can work. There was no script, except the BBC said that there was, which is a big problem here. We can agree to disagree, but it seems like an outright lie, at least narratively, when you take a look at this. The BBC's own announcement last year stated that the 2026 Christmas special would be written by Davies and director drama Lindsay Salt, saying that the BBC was delighted that Russell T Davies has agreed to write us another spectacular Christmas special for 2026. So where did it go? Where is that story, and should we care? I don't know. Composer Murray Gold also reportedly said on the Half the Picture podcast that Davies had written multiple versions of the Christmas special script, depending on certain outcomes. A comment Gold admitted he probably wasn't supposed to share. Yeah, so that Davies could get out of there with as little kerfuffle as possible. Well, that backfired, and completely, in fact. So either nothing was ever written, as Davies now claims, or scripts existed and got scrapped when the production couldn't lock down a lead, which is exactly what the rumors said that were covered on Cosmic Book News before. Exit follows years of backlash. Well, this might be my favorite part of the story. Davies' departure caps off years of declining fortunes for the franchise, stretching back through the Jodie Whittaker area and into Disney Minus's Shudigatwa era that Davies oversaw after returning in 2023. Now, the Disney deal was supposed to give Doctor Who a bigger budget and a global push, and instead, the Gatwa seasons failed to chart on Nielsen in the US and faced fan backlash over the creative direction that ended with Disney Minus walking away. So, There were only about 12 people watching the show, as Gatwa himself famously said to his detractors. Of course, he'd also said, don't watch, turn off the TV and go touch grass. Well, that's what most of the audience did. So Gatwa's finale ended with the Doctor regenerating into Billy Piper, but Piper was never confirmed as the next Doctor, despite that statement being made by many others along the way. Davies now says no actor was ever approached for the role, in spite of the fact that there was a regeneration. All of this is unfathomably in question right now. That's the fanciest way I know how to say it. In other words, we know that this guy is a complete liar, and we know that the show was doomed. And he lied the whole time. Whether or not it was to Bad Wolf, whether or not it was to Disney Minus, or whether or not it was to the BBC, or all three, it doesn't matter. He lied, most importantly, to the audience, which gave false hope to a future for Doctor Who that he would treat with honor. He didn't. And so here we are with no more Doctor Who. And are we really going to miss it? I don't think so. But hey, those are my thoughts on the matter. What are yours? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. We've got lots of room for speculation. You've got AMC Plus streaming the show at home here in the US right now. You can see it in various places online right now, and I think Disney Minus still controls the seasons that they funded. So who knows, but nothing's going to be all collected in one place for a while. And even if that does happen, even if it resumes production in some other form, fashion, with maybe a little bit more dignity and honoring the previous source material, maybe it'll never reach the heights it did here in the US just about 15 years ago. We'll have to see. I don't think so. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just never watching Doctor Who again.